Selling your items at the right time can make or break your investment. Today we're going to be discussing if you should be selling right now. Now the first area I want to talk about are active duty cases. Now in a previous video we talked about how active duty cases are a super risky investment, and obviously nothing has changed there. If we want to look at total supply of cases, the fracture case is currently the #1 most supplied case in the game, and we talked about how that makes it not a very optimal investment for most people. However, does that mean you should really be selling these is the real question. SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins, with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options, and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description. In my personal opinion, I would break it down into two different categories. You've got the cases that have a very slight potential of being moved, and you've got the cases that have no potential. Currently, the Dreams and Nightmares case and the Revolution case have 0% chance of being moved. That's just because the unboxing numbers are too strong and they're too new. A lot of people look at the Fracture and say this is the next one to go. However, I can almost reassure you at this point it's probably not. It's the second highest most unboxed case in the game and very unlikely to be moved. The only time we've ever seen a case get removed at the peak of unboxings is actually the Clutch case, and if you look, the Clutch case started to fall off a little bit before it was getting removed. The Fracture case is still on the come up, and I don't expect anything to change for it real soon. That leaves the Snakebite and the Recoil, which are obviously up to you, but at the current prices of them, I would say you might just want to hold on to them, which is what I would personally do. However, if you want to go ahead and sell them and use that money elsewhere, I wouldn't blame you. Now, talking about rare cases and specifically the ones that are on the little bit cheaper end of that, I, in my opinion, think it's a really bad opportunity to sell right now. If we want to look at the graphs, these ones were up quite dramatically when we saw all of the hype for CS2, and that was due to a couple different things. One, obviously the game hype, but two, the unboxing numbers during that time went absolutely crazy. And in my opinion, there's no reason not to suspect that the unboxing numbers would increase quite significantly once we see the players return back to the game, which theoretically should happen when CS2 is released. It's a little bit of a stretch potentially for you, but in my opinion, I think this is quite solid of an investment, and I would say there's not a huge opportunity to sell. And if you were looking to sell, you could have did so earlier, but now you're looking at almost 50% less money than they were worth then. Combine that with the fact you get the Clutch case and the Danger Zone case on a really strong path to success currently, and I can't see a strong reason as to why you would sell these at this time. However, there's three groups of cases that are actually even worse to sell in my current opinion, and those are going to be the Spectrum, the Gamma, and the Chroma cases. These cases are on absolute fire as of recently. We can look at the graphs and see that these cases were really the only ones over the past couple of weeks to see massive increases. That's obviously due to the popularity these cases have. However, if we want to look over the past year and a half, looking at since the beginning of 2022, these three cases have consistently been the best performing. As you can see right here, the Spectrum 2, the Gamma 2, and the Chroma 3 are the only three cases that even come close to the Danger Zone and Clutch case in terms of unboxed minus dropped since the beginning of 2022. And then head back to the unboxing numbers and look at that the Spectrum 2, the Gamma 2, and the Chroma 3 are currently numbers 5, 6, and 7 for the most unboxed rare cases, even in their current very expensive form. They're competing with the Clutch case and the Danger Zone case, and honestly, in my opinion, they're a very possible great investment opportunity if you want to look into that, but selling them at this time would be virtually one of the worst things you could do in my opinion. Now, skins are a little bit of an interesting one. If we want to look at the 6-month graphs, we can see that a lot of them pumped up quite significantly, but almost all of them are back to roughly the same price points they were sitting at beforehand. In my honest opinion, this is kind of the overall market trend we see, and if you're going to sell anything, potentially skins could be on the table. That's just because, like we mentioned, this is the overall market trend. Skins are usually a lot less volatile than some other things in the market, and most likely they're probably going to end up being relatively stagnant when nothing major is happening in the market. Therefore, I always go to skins being one of the first things I sell, just because you can usually buy them back for a relatively similar price provided nothing major has changed. With that being said, I don't think it's worthwhile to sell your skins just to have the balance right now, because unless we see an operation, skins are most likely not going to decrease any bit further, and it would kind of be a waste just to have that money sitting there, because you're going to get hit with fees and you're also going to not have the opportunity to use those skins. After that, talking about Paris, Stockholm, and Antwerp, these ones are a really interesting predicament. We can look at the Paris Hollows and we can say that obviously they have shown that they have a very strong price price point and they're going to be sticking to it. They're probably not going to drop down super low at this point, and I do want to take that into consideration because in the past I've been pretty heavily focused on selling this area. However, I will say if this makes up a very small amount of your inventory, it might be worthwhile just to keep it for the long haul and not even worry about it and buying it back at a later time. It just may not be worth it. If it came down to me personally and I needed the money, this would probably be the #1 area I would look to is the Paris Hollows. But if we're talking about the Paris capsules, Stockholm capsules, Antwerp capsules, a lot of them are sitting in a very advantageous position. Obviously Stockholm and Antwerp a little bit more than Paris because we don't really know about Paris, but I would say in this area there's a lot of potential to come when we look at the ROIs and we look at the demand for everything, and therefore I would say I wouldn't personally sell this area, but I could understand if you wanted to go ahead and do so. Now if you've watched my channel for a while, you know there's one thing I really like to reference, and that's the sticker capsule 2. I just find it so interesting how there is one thing inside of the CSGO market that has been accurately able to predict when the peaks and the droughts are going to go ahead and finish, and that's the sticker capsule 2. Obviously take it with what you will because it's not guaranteed, but looking at the chart right now, we are currently at a 60% deficit since the peak we saw just a couple months earlier. If we want to compare that to the past examples of this, we can see that the maximum deficit we saw was 61.5%, almost identical to where we're currently sitting at. Now about the sticker capsule 2 itself, it was an active duty drop for a very small period of time, then it became a rare drop, and it has been a rare drop for the past many years. The ROI inside of it is mainly based up of the crown foil, which is kind of the only thing inside of it. It's not the thing to be taken the most seriously, however it's quite interesting how it usually ends up being fairly close to what's actually going on. However, on a very serious note, the most important things that come with selling your items have to do with two big things. The first of which is, why are you selling? If you're selling off your item to pick up another investment item, it's probably not going to be worthwhile, just because no matter what marketplace you go to, you're going to get hit with fees. Combine that with the fact that we're in a low point for the market, which we just showed, and it's probably not going to be the most optimal thing to do. The other thing is, it really depends on what you're going to do with those funds. If you're saving your funds right now just to have them in the bank, that's a very questionable thing to do, and I would highly recommend you only do a couple percentage points of your overall inventory worth. That's because you're going to be losing out if the market starts to pick up all of a sudden and you have to buy either at those higher prices, or you just lose the overall value you had beforehand with your items. However, breaking it down, what should you be doing right now? In my opinion, I don't think it's a very optimal time to sell anything. However, if you're going to sell stuff, make sure it's not the solid long-term investments that you picked up a while ago just because you need money right now. If you're stuck in a decision of what to sell, in my honest opinion, I think selling off really any cases that are in the rare drop pool is probably not going to be a smart move for you, but you can obviously decide that for yourself. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day.